Howdy Doomtown fans, and welcome to part 2 of my Bad Medicine review. In this part, we're going to be looking at all of the non-dude cards in the saddlebag. First up, we have a couple of deeds, and the first one is called the Orphanage. It's a 3 of diamonds, it's worth 1 control point, it's 2 to play with 1 income. It's private and it's government. Controller Noon Boot, all deeds with 2 or more control points have -1 control point and +2 production until after the next upkeep phase. This is pretty cool and fits right into the types of deeds I like best. This is cheap, it's going to provide an income and a control point, and then it's got this ability that you're probably not going to use all the time, but you could definitely get some benefit out of. Now the first thing that I noticed is that within just the 3 value, we have the First Baptist Church, which is not really the greatest deed. It's pretty much just a cheap set of 2 control points. You don't get any income. This would make this card a little bit better. You'd still be able to capitalize on the hand size thing. The other thing with this is that you don't necessarily have to use it just to benefit your deeds. You could also use it to reduce your opponent's control points. If they have a whole bunch of control point deeds, this might buy you a little bit of time, and I could see that being pretty useful against like a deed slide deck. A lot of times those slide decks end up with so much money. I mean, I've played a lot of games where they have 20, 25 money just sitting there, and giving them more production is not really what they need. They're going to want those control points, and this is going to be a powerful tool against that. The next deed is called The Place. It's a 6 of diamonds, it's 1 control point, it's 4 to play, and it has 4 income. It's public and a saloon. Increase the production of the leftmost deed in each other's street by 2. This is the second deed we've seen that comes front-loaded with a ton of income, and then has like a big drawback that helps out your opponent. Cook's Nightcap is kind of like that. Although it's when they take the deed, you get the disadvantage. This is just going to give your opponent a static 2 income on their leftmost deed. And unless you can block or take control of that deed, they're going to just get that 2 money the rest of the game. Now this is probably still going to be worth it to some degree. 4 costs for 4 income, that's really enough to get pretty much any economy off the ground. And you're going to be getting quite a bit more out of it than your opponent at 2 additional. So I don't know, I think that this is probably good enough, especially if you have something to do with the saloon aspect, or if 6s are on value, but I could probably see just leaving this in the box if neither of those things are true. If you're just looking for a 4 cost deed or something approximately that cost that gives you a bunch of income, there's already several good options for that. I would much rather have a Blake Ranch in a lot of situations than this thing if I don't care about the value or the saloon or the control point. Next up we have a goods card. This is Hawley's Rose. It's a 2 of hearts, it's 1 to play, it's a tire. This dude gains the Abomination keyword. During sundown, this dude has +1 influence and 1 additional influence if there is an opposing dude at this deed. This is a pretty neat little attire card that, like so many other attire cards, helps you get a little extra influence, especially early in the game. Now, I don't really see you being able to get a whole lot of advantage out of the Abomination keyword thing. We already saw Vitality Tonic, which was another goods card that turned your dude into an abomination. And the main problem with getting any advantage out of that is that most of the abomination cards use some sort of abomination effect that involves dudes that are not in play. So it's going to be bringing dudes from Boot Hill or from your hand or discard pile or something like that. There is maybe Carl Audit. If you started him and you had like 1 or 2 non-abominations, you played enough of this, you could turn those dudes into abominations early. I think the main thing is just going to be that this is a 1 cost +1 influence that is occasionally going to be even 2 influence. And I think that's going to fit pretty well into some of the abomination builds. I think especially the kind of control-oriented oddities of nature could use this. This is an interesting card. It's probably going to see very limited play, but I think it could be okay in a control-oriented, abomination-focused deck, because early in the game, you usually don't have as much influence, and this would be a way to help offset that. Next up, we have a new weapon. This is LeMat Revolver. It's a 7 of hearts, it's +1 bullets, it's 2 to play. It's a weapon. It has cheat and resolution, boot, increase your hand rank by this dude's bullet rating. Then it has resolution, boot, use this ability only if this dude is a stud, if, by including the top card of your discard pile with your draw hand, you have 3 pairs of different values, increase your hand rank by this dude's bullet rating. I don't know how great this card's going to be, but I absolutely love this design. I think this is the type of thing that I would like to see more with weapons. First of all, we've got this cheat and resolution boot that is absolutely devastating. You're going to have, I would say, minimum like 2-3 bullets on any dude you put this on. And just being able to cheat and resolution, increase your hand rank by 2 or 3 is huge. Now, the real teeth of this card comes in with this resolution ability. You can use that if they're not cheating. And it is a little tricky. You have to have a stud, and you have to be able to get 3 different pairs, including the top card of your discard pile. That to me seems very doable. There's a lot of draw structures, especially draw structures that are kind of oriented around full house, where a lot of times you have like 3 or maybe 4, even 5 values that you're working with in your deck. And a lot of times the way those draw structures work is that you have 1 or 2 kind of primary values and then a few subsidiary values. So I think it's pretty reasonable to get the 3 pair. And instead of that just being a broken full house, it's going to potentially have this really powerful effect. I think this thing is pretty much the perfect combination of tricky to use, but also just kind of generically good. It's kind of expensive, but you're going to get that bullet. It's on 7, which means it's going to be able to fit into quite a few different draw structures, especially maybe within Sloan. And I think all around this is just a great design for a new weapon. I'm really excited to get this to the table. Next up, we have another goods card. This is Yawns Mechanical Skeleton. It's a Jack of Hearts. It gives +2 bullets, +1 influence. It's 2 to play, and it's a weapon, attire, horse, and a gadget with difficulty 9. This dude gains the gadget keyword and has +3 value. Opposing cards cannot boot or move this dude. This thing is absolutely bonkers. This is easily the best gadget, I think, all around that we've seen in the game so far. It seems incredibly easy to use, assuming that you can actually meet the invention requirement. And beyond that, it's going to be awesome on basically any dude. Now, there are a few dudes that I think especially excel with this. JW Byrne absolutely loves this thing. It meets all of his requirements. The other thing I would point out is that you can invent this within the Law Dogs pretty easily if you use Zoe as one of your starting dudes. And I already thought that she was really strong just for the 2 influence aspect, the fact that she has a useful ability and she's cheap. But man, with this thing as an option, and it's going to be easy to invent this with her because you can just clump up all your deputies in a location and hopefully get a big boost to the Mad Scientist skill, making it a lot easier to pull 9, going to make it easier to include lower values in your deck. This could also be really good in Morgan's Stables since it is a horse, and it's just really strong. It does a lot of good stuff for you. Getting the +3 value plus the opposing cards thing is really going to help, especially against things like Paralysis Mark. And that's an area that of the game that I think really we need more cards for. We've been seeing a lot of stuff to counter Paralysis Mark recently, and I think this is one of the better solutions to that we've seen for a long time. This is absolutely going to see play in basically any deck that can actually invent it, and I think this is a really solid card all around. Next up, we have a new spell. This is Fool's Gold. It's a 4 of hearts, it's 1 to play. It's a Hex, and it's seedy. React Hex 5, boot. Use after all players ante for lowball. if this dude is in the town square. If successful, move 1 ghost rock from the pot into your stash and increase this dude's bounty by 1. Well, if I've ever seen a spell that screamed to me Sloan Gang, I think this is one of them. Being able to increase your bounty is pretty much only an advantage for the Sloan Gang. So I think in order for this to even be a card you're considering, you're probably going to want to have some outlet to utilize that bounty. I'm really not all that impressed with this card. I think that it's reasonably okay as a way to generate a little bit of money and to put bounties on your dudes, maybe in the right hex-slinging Sloan deck. But man, it seems so narrow use outside of that context, and there's certainly a lot better spells to play if you don't have a use for the bounty. Next up is another spell. This is Mother Bear's Rage. It's a 5 of hearts, it's 1 to play, it's a spirit totem. Noon Spirit 5 boot, a 2-stud nature spirit comes into play at this location or an adjacent deed and calls out a dude there. This seems like it could work in the Spirit Fortress decks, but it's certainly going to take some finagling to really get it to work. The fact that it's a 5 is definitely difficult. I think that really reduces the range of viable totems that you can play. Some of the best ones, especially Fire of Nana Bozho, requires a huge pull requirement, and that's going to force you to either start some sort of really high shaman skill guy, or you're going to have some other, like maybe play a very limited number of these or something like that. I could see this being okay in that deck if you can make the pull requirements with it. The call out thing seems okay. The fact that it's just another way to generate another 2-stud dude, and the fact that it works adjacently is also very nice. So I could see this being okay, especially as an option for like home or that 1 turtle deed that you're building in the Spirit Fortress deck. But the fact that it's a low pull value, I think might be more of a challenge to get to work than it would be to just not play this card. Next up, we have a new action card. This is called Focusing Chi. It's an ace of clubs, it's 0 to play, it's a feat. If revealed for a technique pull, you may unboot this dude, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and discard any of them. Return the rest to your deck in the same order. Then it has Noon/Shootout technique. Place this card on top of your deck or draw a card. This is a pretty interesting little enabler for Kung Fu. This is going to make it easier to make some of the pulls since you can put it on the top. It's going to be the best pull possible at ace. And then it also has this nice little thing where you get to discard some of the cards from your deck. That might make it easier to combo. You can get the cards you're looking for. I think if you're doing some very heavy Kung Fu thing, this is absolutely a card you're going to consider. You're going to want to play a lot of low value cards anyway, and the technique that this is competing with at ace is one of the not as good ones. So I definitely think that this is going to make the cut if you're doing something very Kung Fu intensive. This is a nice addition to that strategy. I think it's definitely going to fit in virtually anything focused on that, but we'll see if anybody's actually doing that. It's worth noting that Doomtown DB has a version of this card that says it's only a feat and not a technique, but the card that I got in my pack says both feat and technique. Pretty sure this card's supposed to be a technique. That's a little strange. Next up is another action card. This is called Mugging. It's a 2 of clubs, it's 0 to play. It's Noon Job, mark an opposing dude. Boot up to 2 cards attached to the mark. If the job succeeds, send the mark home booted, and you may ace any 2 booted cards attached to the mark. Here's another Noon Job that is going to be pretty effective against like spell-oriented or gadget-oriented decks. I think a lot of us have been playing things like Kidnapping to try to deal with the Clown Control deck. You get really aggressive early on and you try to get rid of their Hex Slingers, and then you're in pretty good shape going into the later game. Here's a way that you're not going to kill necessarily their Hex Slinger guy, but you are going to get to neutralize some of their spells as well as potentially destroy those spells. And that's really effective, especially against decks that are going to be deploying the defensive spells, something like Blood Curse, early in the game. I could see this being pretty good if they've built up a defensive dude and you want to deal with those spells early on. But I think it's really going to be contingent on which values are in your deck. I don't see you really playing this instead of Kidnapping if you're just looking for a slot against Clown Control. Next up, we have another Noon job. This is Signing Over the Stores. It's a 9 of clubs, it's 1 to play. It's Noon job. Mark the town square. If successful, discard up to 5 cards from the top of your deck, then attach up to 3 different goods cards from your discard pile to those dudes, reducing their cost by 2 each. If the job was unopposed, unboot the leader. Oh man, this thing is awesome. There's so much you're going to be able to do with this. I think this is going to see play in a pretty wide range of decks. Pretty much any deck that has 3 different goods cards is going to be able to consider this thing. I was especially excited about trying this thing in the Dead Man's deck that's based on Eagle Wardens, where you use Danny Wild and you pump him sky high full of influence so he can't be called out. You're already going to have control of the town square with a deck like that. And if you have Zachary Deloria, you're going to have a ton of bullets. It's going to be hard to oppose the job. That's going to allow you to get more copies of the Evidence and Outlaw Mask, which are kind of the combo that you're using to pump up your influence. And I have been playing a 1 of Legendary Holster in that deck lately because it's pretty easy to make the pull when your dude has insane bullets. Now, I also think this has a lot of potential in a gadget deck because you're going to definitely be playing enough goods, and you're going to just have to be prepared to invent them with your mad scientists, even though you get to reduce their costs. I also really like the unopposed unboot the leader thing. I think that is something that could go on to a lot more jobs and just is a really nice incentive to playing the card when it's going to be unopposed. I think a lot of the best uses for kind of economy jobs is when they're unopposed, and this is just going to make it even better in those situations. I really like this. I think this is a really well-designed job that is going to be a big engine for a lot of different decks, and I'm really curious to see what people come up with these 3 different goods cards. The last card in the pack is a new headline. It's called No Funny Stuff. It's a 10 of clubs, it's 0 to play. It's a headline, which means only 1 headline can be played per shootout. It has shootout, react, and non-cheat and resolution abilities cannot be used during this shootout. As a shootout play, any player may discard 2 random cards from their hand to end this effect. I'm kind of mixed on this. On one hand, it's definitely really powerful to be able to stop those abilities. That said, if those abilities are originating from like goods or dudes or deeds, the discarding 2 cards thing seems to me like something that's going to be pretty easy to do. So it's mainly going to be a really strong effect against cards that are coming out of your opponent's hand. Now there's a lot of good versions of those, right? There's lots of things we're scared of coming out of our opponent's hands. So I think that definitely makes this card worth considering. The main problem I'm having with this is that it's at a really hot value that is reasonably contested. Unprepared is a card that's good in basically any deck. It's just such a powerful effect. And I think there's a lot of situations where Unprepared is going to be just as good as this card. But if you're playing 10s and you already have your Unprepareds, I could see including 1 or 2 of these. This is going to be really strong against decks that are absolutely crammed full of club shootout effects, especially like really aggressive decks like Sloan. I could see this being really strong against them. That's going to do it for my Bad Medicine review. This pack is coming right before the next Pine Box release, and I'm really encouraged by the exploration and sort of interesting things that are going on with the design space in this pack. I'm really curious to see how that continues on into the big box. I really like cheap dudes. We're seeing lots of those in this pack. There's definitely a lot of interesting effects for shootouts and countering sort of shootout effects. I'm really curious to see what happens as we move into this next big box, and I think that this is another solid pack that's probably going to be worth picking up pretty much regardless of what you're playing. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe and press the button that looks like a thumbs up, and I'll see you again for some more Doomtown stuff.